Reverend Norma Fontaine Filbert from Garden of Grace Ministries, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Before I pray, I'd like to read Psalm 91 in the Passion Translation. Is there a mic? Can you hear me?
It's picking you up.
Okay. When you sit enthroned under the shadow of Shaddai, you are hidden in the strength of God Most High. He is the hope that holds us together, the stronghold that shelters us, the only God for us, our great confidence. He will rescue you from every hidden trap of the enemy. He'll protect you from the false accusation and any deadly curse. His massive arms are around you, protecting you. You can run under his covering of the majesty and you can hide. His arms of faithfulness are a shield, keeping you from harm. You will never have to worry about an attack of demonic forces at night, nor have to fear a spirit of darkness coming against you. Do not fear a thing. Whether by night or by day, demonic danger will not trouble you, nor will the water powers of evil launched against you. Even in a time of disaster, with thousands and thousands being killed, you will remain unscathed and unharmed. You'll be a great spectator as the wicked perish in judgment, but they'll be paid back for what they have done. When we live our lives within the shadow of God Most High, our secret hiding place, we will always be shielded from harm. How then could evil prevail against us or disease infect us? God sends angels with special orders to protect us wherever we go, defending us from all harm. If you walk into a trap, they'll be there for you to keep you from stumbling. You'll even walk unharmed among the fiercest powers of darkness, trampling every one of them beneath your feet. For here's what the Lord has said about you. Because you have delighted in me and my great love, I will greatly protect you. I will set you on high, safe and secure before my face. I will answer your cry for help every time you pray, and I'll find and feel my presence even in your time of trouble. I'll be your glorious hero and give you a feast. You'll be satisfied with full life and with all that I do for you will enjoy the fullness of my salvation. Psalm 91 in the Passion Translation. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord God Almighty, we come before you this evening with hearts of praise and adoration, simply because you are God all by yourself. You are God in heaven, you are God on earth. Heaven is your throne, and earth is your footstool. And tonight we declare that you are our God, and we are your people. We thank you for your loving kindness. We thank you for your tender mercies. We thank you for your grace. We thank you, dear God, for this opportunity to be about the affairs of the city. And God, this day I thank you for each leader, each man, each woman, each one you have called to lead this great city. I pray that the spirit of wisdom and revelation would rest upon each one mightily. I pray, dear God, that the spirit of unity and the bond of peace would prevail among the city leaders and extend it down into the city itself. I come against every plot, plan, scheme, or device of the enemy against this great city. And God, most of all, I pray that you will be done. And even as this meeting goes forward, Lord, may all that is said and done bring honor and glory to you. Lord, bless our city leaders. Bless the city of Clearwater is our prayer. In Jesus' name, amen, amen, and amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend, for coming out tonight. Those inspiring and challenging words. We're going to start out with a couple presentations. The first is our Diversity Leadership Council poster contest. And I would have Sherman Stroman and Frida Daniels come forward from our HR department. Good evening. The floor is yours, sir.
All right. Good evening. Good evening. My name is Mr. Sherman Stroman. I'm the Diversity Equity Manager, and this is Ms. Carla Dees. She is our DLC chair. We represent the city's Diversity Leadership Council. We're here today to present the city's 2022 poster contest. This year is actually our 20th year of our poster contest, and it remains one of our most successful outreach endeavors. Our goal is to help all participants understand the meaning of diversity and celebrate it in their lives and their communities. So once again, I want to thank the mayor, I want to thank city council members, I want to thank City Manager John Jenkins for allowing us to have this opportunity to have this poster contest. As we know, it provides a lot of inspiration to a lot of our youth in the community. At this time, I'd like to bring up Ms. Carla Dees, to kind of give some opening.
Thank you. Good evening. Each year, this contest is open to the City of Clearwater Parks and Recreation summer camp participants who learn diversity as part of their activity programs. The competition gets tougher every year, making it more difficult to choose the winners. But as you will see, it's clear in the results that the kids understand the importance of diversity. We would like to present to you the 2022 poster contest winners. Prizes were awarded for first, second, and third in the 6 to 9, 10 to 11, and 12 and older. We also chose overall grand prizes that we'll announce in a moment. So first, let's recognize our place winners and their artwork.
All right, so at this time, we're going to acknowledge the age group 6 through 9. Our third place winner was Miss Savannah Beasley. Miss Savannah Beasley is from the Countryside Rec Center, and her piece is entitled Don't Judge. Savannah and her family could not be here tonight, but we definitely want to recognize her artwork. Our second place winner in the age group 6 through 9 goes to Ms. Zola Spires, age 6, and she's from the Long Center. And our first place winner goes to Mr. Liam Ivanovic, age 9, and he is from the Countryside Rec Center. Liam's piece is entitled We Are All Different.
And now for the 10 to 11-year-old category, the third place goes to Reese Grieve, age 10, from the Long Center. Second place goes to Ella Janella, age 11, from Countryside Rec Center, and Ella's image is entitled We Are All Unique. And this year's first place winner goes to Mia Colina Peña, age 11, from Countryside Rec Center, and Mia's image is entitled Equality Land.
In our final category, we'll divulge into our 12 years and older category. Third place goes to Miss Gabby Neal, age 14, from the North Greenwood Rec Center, and her piece is entitled Diversity in Colors. Our second place goes to Mr. Caleb Campbell, age 12, from the North Greenwood Recreational Center. And our first place goes to Ms. Diana Hussain, age 12, from the Long Center, and her piece is entitled The Beauty of the World. So at this time, we also had some anonymous posters that the DLC members judged, and we thought they also deserved recognition. Unfortunately, they did not have a name or a rec center attached to them, so we just wanted to show them briefly.
Oh, wow.
I'll pass it back to Carla.
So all of these young people have done an outstanding job of expressing the meaning of diversity through their artwork. Each year we select 2 runners-up and 1 grand prize winner who receive a gift card and an additional ribbon. So for third runner-up grand prize goes to Mia Molina Peña, age 11, for her work, Equality Land. Second runner-up grand prize goes to Gabby Neal, age 14, and her piece is entitled Diversity in Color. And this year's grand prize winner is Sainia Hussein, age 12, for her work, The Beauty of the World. Congratulations to all the winners.
All right, I also want to give a special thanks to all the participants and their families. The posters were absolutely amazing. And special thanks to the Parks and Recs Department for orchestrating this event every year, and our DLC members for helping putting this event together. So at this time, Mayor, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Stroman. Yeah, I want to thank our staff. They do a great job with our camps, and this is a great opportunity for all of our young people to really show off their talent, which they seem to do every year, and it's better and better every year. So what I'd love to do is, if we could have all the recipients, kids come up and line up here so that we could get a picture. I'm sure your parents wouldn't mind getting a shot. If you'll just come up in front of the council. If you've got your art with you, that's even better.
This is our grand prize winner.
She gets in the middle.
Don't be shy, guys. Got it? Great.
Congratulations.
Well done, and thank you, Sherman. We did have a reception for all of the students upstairs earlier and their parents. Got a chance to talk to them and see the art firsthand. So thank you all for participating. We look forward to seeing what happens next year. We were supposed to have Senator Hooper. He is on the agenda, but he's a little under the weather, so we're going to reschedule his appearance at a future council meeting. I would ask if there are any amendments to the minutes of the July 21st, 2022 meeting. Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Next, I want to open it up to citizens to be heard. If there are any citizens in the audience that would like to speak to items that are not on the agenda, please come forward. We ask you to state your name and fill out a comment card. And we respectfully ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. My name is David Ballard Geddes Jr. I live on Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. From the onset of the reclaimed water availability fee, beginning around 2009, late 2008, I approached our county commissioners on the issue of the availability fee. And being that I don't have a sprinkler system, being that I live in a non-deed restricted, unincorporated part of the county, I was still dispositioned with having to pay the reclaimed water availability fee. Upon my refusal to pay for that $14 charge, the county had shut my water off not once but twice, and further threatened to foreclose my home. I find this to be an offensive move on the county's part, and even furthermore, when I looked into the reclaimed water variance of such, when a resident gets waylaid into filling out that variance, inadvertently they open up their entire parcel of property to what's known as transfer of development rights. Based on some of the House bills, Danny Young's House Bill 639, reclaimed water is intended to be soldiered inside of our homes for laundry and toilet use, and this was not fully disclosed to the residential community as to where they intend on going with the reclaimed water. Based on statute 15303 section 5, that variance of such works as an eminent domaining of civilian-owned properties. The variance clearly states that I, the applicant, literally owe my health, my safety, and my religious convictions. When we're talking water, we're talking with a whole set of laws regarding religious standings. And I have a very serious problem with governments behaving in such ways, manipulating water supplies as based on the 14th Amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Norm Bill, the wandering veterans advocate. I apologize. We got so many events I have to go to here in Scottsdale, and Navy SEALs raising $250,000 one night for distressed veterans. So I guess the best I can do in 3 minutes is just go through some a checklist and just, I apologize. First thing is salute to Clearwater Police Department's finest. Their honor guard was at the honor flight at Pye Airport, looking good like they should. They should be in Hollywood. And a very special salute to Father Bob. I'm kind of blowing the secret, but on the 7th of August, which will be this Sunday, they're going to have a ceremony at the Purple Heart Park in Dunedin. First Purple Heart Park in the United States. And I guess a lot of people don't know, but Father Bob was a Marine officer in Vietnam, Purple Heart. And I talked about this one time, and I finally got my hands on this book. It's called The Grunt Padre. It's a true story. It's about Father Capodanno. And he went into combat on the line, armed with a Bible. He was killed in action, shot 27 times. Although his body's dead, his spirit is alive. He is the only one to have a Navy ship named after him, the Pope, blessed by Pope John Paul. And he is going to the sequence of events to be raised to sainthood. So I'm going to present that to Father Bob, now the secret's blown.
I don't know if he's watching, Mr. Bill.
Yeah, you can't keep secrets here at Clearwater or in the Pentagon. My lame duck here is not so lame. We'll get on that later. That's in September. That's a fundraiser for the Gold Star Mothers. We're going to have a duck race, and I'm sponsoring Space Force and Mr. Spock. Live long and prosper. In regards to the invitation, I checked with that with SOCOM and the 4-star general. There's a fairly accurate article. I made a presentation, not this book, but a Sante Raider book that was inscribed. And I have to be fair, veterans are nonpartisan. I did this for Congressman Bill Rackus. He wanted to attend one. I said, you have your wife or a staffer. He took a staffer. Well, he wanted to sit next to Ross Perot, so he got that. Ross is no longer with us. Great guy, did a lot. And Bill Horn, once again, I said, you can be my guest with either Loretta or Scott Burrows. Did have a letter of appreciation for him. And he took Scott Burrows. So I'm going to leave it up to you. You can be my guest. You can talk to the missus and talk over, and that's your business. Or if you want a staff or anybody that you select, you be my guest. The problem is this. It costs between $100,000 and $150,000 to run a banquet. And the contractors have a lot of money. Whoop. One last
Thank
thing
you,
in
Mr.
regard to
Bill.
Scott Burrows. I got the letter of appreciation and the letter that went to the city manager and the
Okay.
city attorney. I'll move out on the other issues.
Have to wrap it up, sorry.
Okay, I'll move out on the other issues. You have other priorities on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for all you do for veterans. Anyone else for citizens to be heard? Good evening.
My name is Ellen Alida, and thank you all. It's so good to see you. I just had to come and thank you for putting the lights back on the trees in downtown. It's absolutely beautiful. I was told that I should thank the city, but I need to thank you all. We wouldn't even be putting the lights on the trees if we didn't have all the beautiful outdoor lighting. And I wanted to mention that we have a group that goes down every Friday night or Saturday night, and as you sit downtown, if you look toward the beach, you can see the sunset. It's magnificent. And then if you look downtown to the 500 block, it's just all beautiful lights. Before it was dead. So I want to thank you for that so much. We appreciate it. The second thing I want to mention, I had the pleasure of going on the Jolly Trolley Haunted Tour. It's amazing. It is so much fun. And the best part, though, you go through the different places and they tell you the history. You go through the cemetery and play scary music. But the best part is they drive right in front of the Capitol Theater, and the thing stops for about 5 minutes, and you just look all the way down the 400 and 500 block, and you see nothing but these beautiful lights. And the other best part about it is nobody else has got colored lights. Not Dunedin, not Safety Harbor, not Palm Harbor, or even Largo. So I can't thank you guys enough. It's just so exciting. Thank you.
Eleanor, thank you for coming out. You are always a bright light for us. So thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. Very good.
Mayor and council members, I'm Bill Johnson. I did turn in a card. I attended the work session on Monday, and I'd like to commend you for the collective wisdom to restart the strategic planning process. That's something that's been trying to get done for a long time, and I thought it was out of order to start the comp planning process without the strategic planning process. And I just would encourage you to refresh the vision process of that strategic planning effort. And I found some selected quotes from the Clearwater ULI report that was done in 2014 that perhaps still apply and can be addressed by this strategic planning process and looking at the vision. First quote is, Clearwater must find one unified vision. Second quote is, this vision must include each of the different constituencies that form Clearwater, and they must buy into that vision. Everyone must feel invited, and everyone must be invested in the outcome, because the city simply cannot afford to leave assets or talents on the table. And then finally, absent true collaboration and a compelling overarching vision, the future of Clearwater will remain uncertain. Please restart the strategic planning process with the community discussion of the vision of our great future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anyone else for citizens to be heard? Ms. Call, tell me when you're starting the clock.
That's 3. You can see.
I want to give a shout out to the irritable Mr. Eric Gandy, and I hope he's feeling better lately. Now, Mr. Hibbard, you are correct in that new police applicants do come from far and wide to Clearwater because of the reputation, but it may be a reputation of, the lax background checks. It might be the reputation of Mr. Slaughter, sort of hiring just about anybody. One example would be Byron Lou Hatcher. On a different note, a lot of people do favors and lend a hand, not really expecting anything in return. For instance, many people donate blood. I don't think they do it for the t-shirt. I think they do it as a true gift, not expecting or wanting any recognition or any type of remuneration. Then there's a group of people who prefer to bask in their good deeds glorification. They like to be looked at. Look what I did. They crave attention in any way they can get. Kathleen Beckman. She prefers to be addressed as vice mayor. I've read her, personal manifesto. I think it's the statement of an egomaniac. She does have a unique perspective on all sorts of fixes for the downtrodden and her green agenda. But when it comes to Clearwater Police, her position is, and I quote her, "It is not appropriate to insert myself into any alleged issues." That was in the email you wrote me. I think as vice mayor, you're involved in any city issues. But you seem to only want to be involved when it feeds, your personal agenda or ego. So, Ms. Beckman, vice mayor, does that make you feel better? Are you just an elitist Democratic Party snob or with some hidden agenda, or is there really a good down-to-earth person in there? I'm undecided. Less than 3 minutes.
Anyone else for citizens to be heard? All right, seeing none. I understand that item 7.3 from the consent agenda has been asked to be removed by a citizen. Are there any other items on the consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.9, to be removed either by citizens or the council? Do I have a motion to approve 7.1, 7.2, and 7.4 through 7.9?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 7.3.
Approve an agreement with Pinellas County Sheriff's Office of Largo, Florida for forensic crime scene processing, latent forensic property and evidence storage, and Pinellas Criminal Assessment Center services in an amount not to exceed $618,438, which includes contingency for the term October 1, 2022 through September 30, 2023, and authorized terms and conditions executed same.
Chief Slaughter, the Clearwater Police Department, for the past 28 years, we've utilized the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department for some ancillary police services to include the crime scene processing, fingerprint comparison, some property and evidence storage, and also collaborated with the fees associated with the Pinellas County Juvenile Assessment Center. As discussed at the work session, we are moving forward with renewing that contract. There is a price increase that reflects an increase of 3.26% of the contract. The crime scene processing, we will remain with the same number of 1,100 calls. We will be decreasing the number of fingerprint comparisons by 100 cases. We will be maintaining the property and evidence storage at 12,000 items, and reducing the Pinellas County Juvenile Assessment Center fees from $475 to $350. Be more than happy to answer any questions. We're very happy with the service. We're definitely have a really good relationship, and as many of you are aware, we have a really good, strong partnership with the Sheriff's Department in many regards.
It's a wonderful partnership. Any questions for the chief? Anyone from the public to speak to item 7.3?
I actually think that this is money well spent, and it goes directly to my point that Pinellas County Sheriff's Office is the primary law enforcement in this county. 28-year relationship. Mr. Slaughter says very happy with that relationship. And they should be. They do all the heavy hitting. They do all kinds of things that Clearwater Police do not have the equipment to do or the wherewithal to do. You would think a police department could do their own crime scene processing, but apparently not. You would think a police department would be able to take care of property and evidence storage on their own, but apparently not. And that's just some of the things on the list. But the $618,000, in my opinion, is money well spent. If we could just get Pinellas County Sheriff's Office to take over everything, we'd be saving in excess of $14 million. So this is another $618,000 that would not be spent if the contract was with Pinellas County Sheriff's Office solely.
Well, we don't have that many crime scenes, fortunately. That's one of the reasons we outsource this. And it's just efficiencies, and other cities within the county do it as well, right, Chief?
They do, and we actually do have crime scene personnel, and we do our own property storage, but the economies of scale for the larger, more complicated crime scenes and the access to some equipment that's, amortized across multiple jurisdictions, it's just, I think it's a good example of us doing functional consolidation where it makes sense and saves our taxpayers money.
Any other questions? I have a motion.
Move to approve item 7.3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 8.1.
Declare surplus for the purpose of sale through request for proposals and qualifications 43-22, real property located at 1454 South Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue, whereby the successful proposal meets the terms established by council.
Thank you, Chuck Lane, Economic Development and Housing Department. This is a vacant city-owned property located at 1454 South Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. The site is 1.3 acres. The allowable density is 24 units, and that includes 4 units if a developer chooses to tap into the affordable housing density pool. The RFP will call for the highest density practicable while staying consistent with the existing development pattern and scale of the neighborhood. Staff recommendation is to require this to be a home ownership project. Because the property was purchased using Community Development Block Program funds, at least half of the units must be sold to households earning 80% or less of the area median income. Staff is proposing that the remaining units are sold to households earning up to 120% of area median income. The units will be restricted by a land use restriction agreement. To answer a question that was asked on Monday about the length of the restriction, if we use federal funds, which I expect will be requested, we'll be required to have a 15-year restriction. If a developer taps into the land use, into the density bonus for affordable housing, our code requires 20 years. So we'll see what we get for responses. If this item is approved by council, staff plans to release the RFP on August 10th. It'll be posted for 6 weeks after the proposals are reviewed by staff. I'll come back to council with a staff recommendation, which will likely include a contract to transfer the property to this successful proposal. I'll take questions.
Any questions for Mr. Lane? Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.1? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve motion, agenda item 8.1.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 8.2.
Approve the request from the owner of property address 1979 Hastings Drive, Clearwater, to vacate the 5-foot wide platted utility easement located on Lot 24 replat of Willow Ridge, according to the map or plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 71, pages 98 through 101, 101 public records of Pinellas County and less, and accept the east and west 10 feet thereof and pass ordinance 9598-22 on first reading.
Thank you, Ms. Call. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tara Kivett, Engineering Director. The purpose of this vacation is to accommodate a generator at the request of the property owner. There's no utilities present in this easement, and staff have reviewed and have no objection. Any questions?
Any questions? Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.2? Mr. Margolis?
Ordinance number 9598-22, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, vacating the 5-foot wide platted utility easement located on Lot 24, replat of Willow Ridge, according to the map or plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 71, pages 98 through 101 of the public records of Pinellas County, Florida, less and except the east and west 10 feet thereof, providing an effective date.
Do I have a motion?
Move to approve agenda item 8.2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 8.3.
Provide direction the proposed First Amendment to an existing development agreement between Beach Rock Lodging LLP, the property owner, and the City of Clearwater, property located at 325 Gulfview Boulevard and 326 Coronado Drive, which includes a revision to Exhibit B to provide new conceptual site plans and elevations and set a new date by which time site plan approval must be obtained, and confirm a second public hearing in City Council chambers before City Council on August 18, 2022 at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter may be heard.
Good evening, Gina Clayton, Planning and Development. The proposed hotel development agreement is for a 1.6 acre parcel. As you can see on the map, it's situated between South Gulfview Boulevard and Coronado Drive. And the original hotel development agreement allocated 100 units from the hotel density reserve for a 180 unit hotel that was to be 140 feet and high. This proposed amendment really doesn't change a lot. It doesn't change the density, the number of parking spaces, the setbacks, but what it does do is reallocate the mass of the building into more of an L shape instead of more of a wedding cake. And it's going to result in a height reduction from 140 feet down to 100 feet. This is the views that you can see where there's been some changes, and due to the extent of the revisions, it really goes beyond what I'm authorized to approve as a minor amendment because it substantially changes the architectural character of the project, so that's why the amendment is before you. We have determined that the conceptual plans are consistent with the code and Beach by Design, and we are recommending approval, and if granted, they'll also have to go through the site plan review process.
Any questions for Ms. Clayton? Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.2? 3. Anyone? Ms. Cole, double duty.
Double duty tonight. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Katie Cole with the law firm of Clearwater Henderson, representing the applicant of this development agreement. On Monday, there were some questions about the ingress and egress. Mr. Pergolese with Gulf Coast Consulting, who performed the traffic study on both the original design as well as the revised design, is here. There were also questions about the mass and the reduction that Ms. Clayton, I think, just showed the best example of why. But just from a practical standpoint, that reduction in the mass was obtained because of efficiencies in the building and the redesign of the parking garage. So instead of having a very large parking garage with the wedding cake, it went to the L shape with kind of a shorter, flatter garage. It is important to note that although there is a larger garage facility on the southern end of the property, there is also an approved hotel that is adjacent to that between Coronado and Gulfview, and so the fact that that went from 1 story to 3 stories there on the south won't be apparent because the other, the new Opal Sands 2 will be in front of it, so kind of wrapping it. So with that, Mr. Pergolese is here to answer if you have specific questions about the access points, but otherwise we appreciate your support and look forward to taking this through to development review.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Pergolese, the traffic engineer? Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.3? Mr. Margolis?
Don't believe that for 8.3.
No, there is not.
Yeah.
I have a motion.
Motion to approve agenda item 8.3.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 8.4.
Approve a development agreement between the City of Clearwater, Gotham Property Acquisitions LLC, and the D'Annunzio Group, providing for the redevelopment of 2 sites on the west side of Osceola Avenue, abutting Coachman Park in the downtown core for overnight accommodations, attached dwellings, commercial uses such as retail, food and beverage, cultural uses, and event space pursuant to Community Development Code Section 4-606. Adopt Resolution 22-15 and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same.
Gina Clayton, Planning. Mayor, did you want me to do, I have a little bit scaled down from the previous presentations if you'd like me to do it. If not,
I think the scaled down version is adequate.
oh, I have some slides so the public can only, okay.
No, I want you to go through the slides. I think
Okay.
that's appropriate. I don't know that there's many people to speak to it tonight, but
Right.
at home there may be folks
Right.
watching.
Okay. The proposed development agreement governs the former Harborview and City Hall sites and is consistent with the call of development concepts that you all issued or we did in May. And as I've mentioned in previous presentations, you'll see that the library parking lot is included in the agreement, but it is for access purposes and will be retained by the city for parking. The applicant's proposal includes a mix of uses, including apartments, a hotel, a variety of food and beverage uses, retail, cultural uses, and event space. The project, along with the newly renovated park, will really be the catalyst for downtown revitalization and hopefully bridge the gap that we have long had between the waterfront and the core of downtown. The first site that I'd like to talk about is the Harbor View site, and that will include a 150-unit, 13-story hotel and will exceed 157 feet in height. That hotel building will include another 9,000 square feet of commercial space on the first and second floors that will be optionally from the hotel, and the site will also include, I realized there, I got ahead of the slide here. It would also include a 53-foot high commercial building that will include 12,000 square feet of commercial space and retail and restaurant uses. The site will also include 119 parking spaces for the hotel, as well as another 50 spaces for city purposes, and the proposed density will be 124 units per acre, where 95 is now allowed. They will be making an application to the public for the public amenities incentive pool, and that will be done at a later date before the Community Development Board. The hotel is located on the north side of the property and will have a hotel lobby and commercial space fronting on Osceola. The commercial space will also front on a public plaza that you can see located between the two buildings. The smaller building that's on the right side of the screen will include a variety of commercial uses and also have frontage on the Civic Gateway into Coachman Park. As you can see on the left side of the screen, that is where there'll be access to the parking garage and loading area. And as you can see, parking spaces will be retained in the city lot. The conceptual landscaping plan and Exhibit E illustrate that over half an acre of the site will be used for public access, and that access will be provided seamlessly around the perimeter of the property and through the site, and it will really blur the lines between the public and private spaces in these areas. That areas will also provide pedestrian access to the park and provide a lot of outdoor dining and public gathering space. The buildings will have a modern architectural design, as you can see, consisting of glass, wood, and stucco, and there'll be a sloped roof-covered grass area with seating incorporated into the commercial building that will also provide a unique space on the side of the development facing the park. The proposal for City Hall is a mixed-use project that will include anywhere between 500 and 600 attached dwellings. There will be residential rental units and 2 towers, and there will be no more than 40,000 square feet of commercial space on the property. Those commercial spaces and some of the amenities for the residents will be located in the building podium. The building will have a total of 27 stories and won't exceed 289 feet in height, and the project density will be 253 units per acre, where 95 is allowed. Again, this project will also have to go to the Community Development Board to request an allocation from the public amenities pool. Parking will be concealed from grade and will be consistent with city code requirements of 1 space per unit. Commercial uses will be located in the building area closest to Osceola Avenue on the north side of the property, and the building moves back, as you can see. As you move south, it moves farther away from Osceola, and it is going to allow for the preservation of a couple of trees there that are on the corner and provide space for a public plaza and a vehicular drop-off area. As you can see along Pierce, that is where you will enter the parking garage, and that will be concealed from view, and between the 2 towers you'll find an amenity space for residents. Approximately 1.36 acres of this 2.6 acre site will be dedicated for public access. There's going to be a landscaped retail corridor on the north side of the property adjacent to Water's Edge, and that area will provide outdoor dining space as well as connect down into Coachman Park. When you look at the site plan, as you get away from the swimming pool area, you'll see some landscape terraced areas, and this really will blur the lines between the development site and to the park, and it will allow access to the park. And as you can see in the middle of the podium here on the drawing, That green area, there will be a green roof on the project, and that will be accessible to the residents. This project has a modern coastal design that incorporates a lot of glass, stucco, and aluminum, and the height of the project is generally consistent with water's edge, which will be its neighbor to the north. The overall building mass is mitigated by locating the two towers at angles on the podium and creating the large view corridor through the center of the site. These projects are consistent with the comprehensive plan and the city's downtown redevelopment goals and generally consistent with the downtown district standards. Based on the public uses, we believe this will create the needed active edge adjacent to Coachman Park. The projects will include a substantial area where the public can move through these development sites into the park and back into the downtown. The number of residential units and hotel units will create a lot of eyes on the park and help keep the area safe. And then the last thing I'd like to say, I guess, is that the project designs, I think, are very thoughtful. They mitigate the mass of these buildings, and a key factor is locating the parking underground instead of in a podium above ground, which really will protect the park from the visual intrusion of cars and aid in limiting that mass. To make this project successful, the proposed 30-year development agreement sets forth a series of public and private obligations. So let's just quickly go through those in addition to all the things about density, intensity, height, and parking. There are some other things that we want to point out. The agreement prohibits some uses, specifically self-storage and light assemblies and nightclubs unless they're in the hotel. We also have some provisions in there that restrict the use of amplified music so that it is more background noise, and so there's some decibel limitations. It also requires that there be public ingress and egress through the site. From the city's perspective, as I mentioned before, key design consideration was the concealing of the parking, and so the city will be contributing to that, and the agreement sets forth those amounts. The developer is also committing to attain LEED Silver certification for all of the buildings. 10% of all parking spaces will be EV capable and 5% EV stalled. And so depending on, the number of residential units, you could have anywhere between 33 to 38 EV charging spaces and another 67 to 77 that would be ready for it in the future. The agreement also obligates the city to ready the sites for demolishing, or ready them for development by demolishing City Hall, which, as the managers pointed out, we're on our way to do that. We're also setting forth in the agreement how the city and the developers will share costs for the public amenity in the park, the pedestrian bridge. And then lastly, the agreement lays out a list of conditions that must be completed before the developer can close on the property. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions or turn it over to our city attorney, and he may want to add some things.
I think she was about to say illustrious.
I know that title is.
You're not there yet, pal.
Of course.
Any questions for Ms. Clayton or Mr. Margolis? Anyone from the public to speak to item 8.4?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Katie Cole with Hill Ward Henderson. I do have a PowerPoint, but as Ms. Clayton said, I feel like we've been eating and drinking and sleeping this project for the past 8 weeks, and so I don't want to cut you all short, but certainly it will probably be redundant from what you've seen the past 3 weeks, but I'm happy to go through it one more time on behalf of the public if you would like me to.
I don't think it's necessary, frankly.
Very good.
But if there's any questions.
Tonight with me is Dustin D'Annunzio with the development team and the principal of the D'Annunzio Group, Ken Cower with Behar Petrogrants, and we're happy to answer any additional questions. We just wanted to say how excited the development team is about this opportunity. The one thing I did want to just share tonight is, again, the breadth of experience that both Gotham and the D'Annunzio Group have with respect to these types of developments. This development is the largest that any development that the city of Clearwater and candidly most of Pinellas County has ever seen before based on the size and the cost of this development. I know we all look down at St. Pete and what's happened along their waterfront, which has happened very incrementally with one project at a time, and so to have these two projects together come out of the ground with such significance is you could not have selected a more experienced and better team to bring this to fruition. So with that, we're happy to answer any additional questions that you may have on the development agreement, or we are here as well for the purchase and sale agreement. So,
any questions? I mean, tonight is really momentous on many levels. Between the development agreement, the sale agreement, and the referendum item. It's a very big night, and it's first step towards a much bigger and final and wonderful end. I look forward to, have been looking forward to this for over 20 years, frankly. So, Councilmember Albrecht?
Just a comment that to expand on what you're saying, it's up to us now to get out and really get this sold to the general public for the referendum. Next big hurdle is the referendum. So, as the mayor said, we've been through a few referendums that have kind of gone south. This is the best I've seen, and I'm really excited that we're here tonight and we're getting this hopefully passed, and then, you know, all eyes on the referendum to try to get that passed as well.
Other comments? Well, again, I want to thank staff, and I want to thank the D'Annunzio Group and obviously the Gotham Group for what they've done. I think there's really good work in this development agreement, and as we go out and speak to the public and talk about this project, I think the answers are in all of these documents that people are going to want to hear about. So I look forward to the fact that we're going to be doing a lot of public meetings over the next several months to make certain that everybody's questions are fully vetted, so that, you know, in November when that referendum comes, everyone feels comfortable checking the box to allow us to change the charter and sell these two properties and move downtown forward to make it more self-sufficient. So I want to thank everyone for that. Mr. Margolis?
Thank you, Mayor. It is my pleasure to read resolution number 22-15, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, approving a development agreement between the City of Clearwater and Gotham Property Acquisitions, LLC, and the D'Annunzio Group, providing an effective date.
Sir, did you have something to?
Oh, I thought we were on comment.
I asked for public comment for anyone to come up. Come on up.
Okay, thank you. I must have delayed too long.
That's okay.
David Ballard Geddes Jr. I live on Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. The physics of continuing to increase the density of the county has put in motion a multitude of requirements necessary to support such development. Before such development takes place, we must have adequate infrastructure such as smart roads and overpasses on US 19 and elsewhere. We must have well-maintained sewer systems, which we have some neglected sewer systems in the county that need to be paid attention to. Again, we must have an adequate water supply to support the population we intend on bringing to this area. Based on my recent attendance to Tampa Bay Water, headquartered in Clearwater here, Tampa Bay Water is intending on extending their operations with a water main, a new water main, to development east and south of Tampa in the Brandon Riverview area. Thereby, one of our main water sources has now been subjected to having supplied another area. being that we are disproportionately overpopulated in regards to our water supply. This draws concern to me. What water conservation measures have been proposed by this developer to ensure our viability for future generations? And my experience from past New York financing of developing in Pinellas County here, the financing of development from this New York money that's come in over the last 50 years seems to have been neglectful on guidelines and codes. And I think that not following guidelines and codes has caused us a problem over the last few decades. And thank you for listening to my concerns.
Thank you, sir. Our staff has done concurrency studies, which means that we do have the necessary infrastructure to support this development with water, sewer, stormwater, and traffic. So this is the type of development that we have been looking for in our downtown, a place where you really ought to have density and height, unlike some of our suburban neighborhoods where you expect single-family homes. So I need a motion.
I very happily move to approve 8.4.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Outstanding. 9.1.
Mayor, 9.1 is ordinance number 9575-22, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to change the land use designation for certain real property located on the east side of South Highland Avenue, approximately 450 feet south of Druid Road, whose post office address is 905 South Highland Avenue, Clearwater, Florida, 33756, from residential office general R/OG to institutional I, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 9.1? Have a motion?
Move to approve agenda 9.1.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 9.2.
9.2 is ordinance number 9576-22, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by rezoning certain real property located on the east side of South Highland Avenue, approximately 450 feet south of Druid Road, whose post office address is 905 South Highland Avenue, Clearwater, Florida, 33756, from Office O to Institutional I, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 9.2? Have a motion?
Move to adopt ordinance 9576-22 on second reading.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 9.3.
Ordinance number 9580-22, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located on the south side of St. John Drive at the southern terminus of St. Anthony Drive, whose post office address is 2843 St. John Drive, Clearwater, Florida, 33759, into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 9.3? Motion?
Move to approve agenda item 9.3.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 9.4.
Ordinance number 9581-22, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for a certain real property located on the south side of St. John Drive at the southern terminus of St. Anthony Drive, whose post office address is 2843 St. John Drive, Clearwater, Florida, 33759, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as residential low RL, providing an effective date.
Anyone to speak to item 9.4? Motion?
Move to adopt ordinance 9581-22 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 9.5.
Ordinance number 9582-22, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real property located on the south side of St. John Drive at the southern terminus of St. Anthony Drive, whose post office address is 2483 St. John Drive, Clearwater, Florida, 33759 upon annexation into the city of Clearwater as low-medium density residential, LMDR, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 9.5? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve agenda item 9.5.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 9.6.
Mayor, I'm pleased to read ordinance number 9597-22, an ordinance of the city of Clearwater, Florida, calling for an election to be held on November 8th, 2022, submitting to the city electors a proposed amendment to the city charter to allow the city to negotiate the redevelopment and sale of certain unoccupied downtown property in the downtown core for the purpose of creating a vibrant mixed-use development consisting of apartments, hotel, and commercial space, including restaurant dining, cafes, and event space, activating the area adjacent to Coachman Park.
Any questions for Mr. Margolis? Anyone from the public to speak to item 9.6? Do I have a motion?
I'm happy to move to adopt ordinance 9597-22 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. All right, let's get to work. 9.7.
Mayor, 9.7 through 9.9 would be continued to a date uncertain if approved by council.
Have a motion to continue to a date uncertain.
Motion to continue to a date uncertain, 9.7, 9.8, 9.9.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Any questions about items 9.10 and 9.11, which are withdrawn? Anyone from the public to speak to those? Item 10.1.
Approve the allocation of American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Funds in the amount of $22,483,893 to fiscal year 2022 General Fund Government Operations as Revenue Recovery. Approve offsetting increases to fiscal year 2022 General Fund expenditures as detailed in this agenda item and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same.
Thank you, Ms. Call. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Jay Ravens, Finance Director. A total of $22,483,893 of American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, monies have been awarded to the city. We are requesting authorization to allocate the full amount of the award to fiscal 2022 General Fund Government Operations as Revenue Recovery per the Department of Treasury final rule. This is the least restrictive category for use of the funds that provides us the most flexibility in using the funds for any government use. We are also requesting approval of additional fiscal 2022 general fund expenditures and transfers out to offset the use of the revenue recovery so that general fund reserves are not increased. The Department of Treasury final rule expressly prohibits any of the monies being used to replenish reserves. It must be expended or returned, encumbered by December 31st of 2024 and fully spent by December 31st of 2026. These recommended allocations serve essentially as budgets for the respective projects and programs. Actual contracts, grant programs, etc. will be brought back to the council for approval as required by the procurement ordinance. As you are aware, 4 public meetings were held throughout the city during May and June of 2022 to gather citizen input into allocation of the ARPA funds. Additionally, an online survey posted to the city's website was used to solicit citizen input. Staff found the results of the citizen input to generally support the proposed list of projects and their respective funding levels, and are submitting our proposed allocation as listed for your review and approval.
Any questions for Mr. Ravens? Mr. Jennings.
Mayor, on Monday, there was a discussion about the allocation of the funds, and there was a request to allocate funds to an incubator project. I'd like to make the recommendation that those $250,000 of the nonprofit funding, the grant-based program that city staff has recommended, be allocated to really what is a phenomenal economic development opportunity to assist micro businesses to grow in our city. So this incubator, I know that, because I've had these discussions with the chamber, and they're seeking funding also from the county, and I think that this would be a very good investment.
Well, you certainly know how I feel about it. I've already been trying to lay some of the groundwork with some outside groups that would do pro bono work as far as counseling young entrepreneurs, and also the fact that St. Pete College is interested in participating in this as well. I think there's a really great partnership that can set Clearwater a little bit apart from our neighbors, having an incubator like this. And as I've said many times, I think it's incredibly important that we are helping people get businesses off the ground, help entrepreneurs, generate new jobs, jobs that hopefully are going to allow people to afford more expensive housing. The best way to deal with our unaffordable housing is to get people higher paying jobs. And I think this is one of the ways to do it. And we have some willing partners that are really willing to put some sweat equity in. So I appreciate the city manager's recommendation. Other than that, I'm very happy with the list. I think we ought to applaud the fact that we're putting a lot of money into the North Greenwood CRA. We have never seen a CRA funded so robustly to start. At least I haven't seen it in the county. And then the affordable housing, having $3.3 million to go towards that, continuing to improve our streets and sidewalks, which really benefit our neighborhoods and add to quality of life. You know, the State Street Park, the upgrades here at the library. I think staff and the feedback we've received from citizens as we went out and did the 4 public meetings support this list. Other questions or comments, Vice Mayor?
I don't know where to start, but I'll start with positive. I am very appreciative of staff and all of us who went out and engaged the public in 4 meetings. I think that was incredibly valuable. We had online surveys that people participated in, and I think that these allocations really do reflect the participation that we had. I am taken aback by a proposal tonight to have $250,000 earmarked for some project that I don't even know the name of. I don't have any documentation of what it is. I don't know what the goals are. I have been told that these allocation line items are the large buckets. In fact, our finance director, Mr. Ravens, who I respect immensely, said these serve as budgets. Programs will be brought back to council for approval, which is the way it should be. I think starting at a level playing field for any program to come forward and get approval to be allocated these ARPA funds is appropriate. I first heard about it Monday. I don't even know what it is. If other people have known about it, I don't, and I don't think that's fair for me to be voting on an allocation of $250,000 for some program we have no documentation of. The program that I have a vague notion of seems like it could fit into any one of these 3 $1 million buckets: Pinellas Community Foundation, nonprofit funding, grant-based programs, or education grants or partnerships. And, I am all about transparency. There are a bunch of different organizations in our county, in our area, in Clearwater, that have ideas and want to bring them forward to use these funds. On Monday, I asked about having a concerted effort to go out to our Clearwater residents and ask if they have programs or ideas or initiatives that they would like to start and have maybe a matching grant program. And then to also involve some portion of our Clearwater residents in kind of a review process. We talked about the Pinellas Community Foundation. Councilmember Albritton asked about whether or not we could earmark or we could designate what types of programs we would like the Pinellas Community Foundation to manage that $1 million. Absolutely, we can. But to slide in a program tonight that's named that we don't have any documentation, it wasn't attached to the agenda, is highly troubling to me. It's just not the place to do it. You need to do it once you have something in front of us. But to pull a pet project out and put it as a line item here in these large buckets is just really troubling. If I'm missing something, please let me know. But I'm just very, very concerned with that.
Any other questions or comments? Where did we come up with the $2 million for solar panels? I mean, where did that number come from? Is that scientifically arrived at? How many panels will it?
It was a discussion with our sustainability coordinator and Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, we've been working on a study that will be prepared to present to you all in, I believe it's September, with Wade Trim, I believe was the, is that?
McKim and Creed.
McKim and Creed, you got it, yep.
The energy expert that we were paying.
Yep. That information should be available soon. We'll be presenting that, I believe, in September, and that has helped guide some of that. We also have a grant allocation as well as some funds put away in the general fund.
So we're going to have data as to why 2 million was the correct number?
We'll have data that shows what the overall number will likely be, and the 2 million is part of that, yes.
And what the payback and ROI is going to be?
And what buildings it makes sense on because of where the electrical rooms are, how much space is on the roof, all of these different elements that come into solar panels.
So if the ROI doesn't meet our standards, we can pull the 2?
Absolutely. We're trying to base the decision on that ROI, a mix of the environmental portion of it and the financial portion, but absolutely we want to have that full conversation about what the financial ROI is and what the environmental ROI is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Councilmember Bunker?
I don't think we need to have a tit-to-tat over our own favored programs. I really love the idea of the incubator, and I do think the Vice Mayor is correct that we should have a greater breakdown of these things, ideally. I don't know exactly how the $5 million is going to be spent on North Greenwood, but I'm assuming we're going to spend it wisely. At least I hope I do. And with the incubator, I'm going out this weekend to take a look at this container crate shopping mall in Wesley Chapel, which is a very affordable way for people in that community to start a business for, I think it's like $1,500 for rent for a store. And if we have some help guiding people into creating a small business like that, I think that's more than valuable. So I don't have a problem trusting that the folks that you've talked to are going to handle this properly. I do, however, see the Vice Mayor's point.
Councilmember Teixeira?
I actually agree with you, Councilman Bunker, in the sense that a lot of these allocated monies are under very general terms with nothing very specific, and I'm trusting the city staff to do their due diligence and go through the process. And if there's anything that occurs, we can stop or reevaluate. I am happy that this incubator is being brought up because I look at this incubator as those wellness programs for our health, which is a way to, in the long run, improve our outcomes. And investing in small businesses, to me, is like having those that wellness program in our healthcare. It's going to reap its rewards, and it's going to actually enable a lot of good things to happen. So I agree with Mr. Bunker in the sense that I know that it kind of looks like it's slid in, but if I look at all these headings with all these money allocations, they're pretty general terms as well, and there's nothing specific to those topics. I'm just going to assume that we're going to go through the due process. But having a business incubator and offer these opportunities to small businesses and hopefully have the ripple effect of having people, having higher salaries and more robust businesses, I think that is an investment in our future, which can affect the other areas where we need to help, including affordable housing.
Councilmember Albritton.
We've had incubator programs, or economic development has started many businesses here in Clearwater. I mean, they've started small, and I toured one last year that had grown substantially, and not a lot of people knew about it, but it's still here in Clearwater, and it's doing a really good job of still growing. And that's the kind of thing we want to really happen here with our economic development. This program here, this ARPA money that we're getting from the federal government, we did get it vetted through the public. A lot of things were going into general is being dispersed generally through what I think most everybody wanted it to go. I think we could find, you basically, John, you said that you were going to do it through a grant-based. Where were you pulling this from?
Which part?
The 250.
The 250 we're pulling, well, the recommendation is from the nonprofit funding, the grant-based program that's allocating a $1 million. That's the recommendation.
Okay. And I didn't really hear about this till tonight, but I am for incubator program. I think it's good for the city. It's good for even the private sector is doing this, and it's being very helpful. So if it was $2 million or some bigger amount, I'd probably question it more than $250,000. And I think we can make all this stuff work. I don't want to hold this up and say, let's wait and get more discussion on it before we vote on it. I'll be voting to approve this allocation.
Vice Mayor.
I would say, if you're voting for $250,000 for an incubator program, it seems to me you need to be able to articulate what it is, what it's called, what are the goals, how many people are going to be involved, what's the business plan. I have no business plan. If we want to do a line item that says, I think we'd like to, that's where earmarking or giving direction to the Pinellas Community Foundation or the nonprofit funding grant-based program and say, you know what, we really want to target an incubator program. Please put the word out to everyone in Clearwater, start with a level playing field and say, please submit to us your proposals. And that's fair. But if you already have something in mind that we're going to pull out $250 from this $1 million bucket, that doesn't seem to be fair to other organizations that may have an incubator program that they're thinking about. Maybe this incubator program that somebody's already, working to shape, maybe it's not diverse enough. Maybe it's targeting young entrepreneurs who are already starting their business, and maybe we want to target high school or college students who are studying it. I don't know, but I don't know anything about it because I don't have one iota of information in front of me for this. And if we were to allocate $250 or $1,000 to, this, incubator program, again, in conjunction with Amplify or something, I'm just thinking it stands out as something very different than our large buckets that our finance director has presented this way, and that we have talked about for the last 4 months with our outreach. We didn't list under those outreach. What type of programs would you like to see under, your grant-based funding, education grants, whatever? I think it's highly irregular. I don't think it's transparent, and I certainly don't think it's fair to the other providers of service in our area if somebody else has got a head start on $250,000 because they had conversations with some of us, but not all of us. And not out in the public, where the public couldn't make comment on it. I anticipate that when programs come forward here, they're going to be brought before us, right? I mean, whoever has control over these buckets doesn't get to write all the checks without oversight. Is that correct, Mr. Margolis?
That's generally correct. I mean, but something if I may.
Joe?
Yes.
So, I mean, as I understand it, I mean, this is really just seeking budgetary authority for these broad categories at this point. And so if there are more specific expenditures that come up later that exceed $100,000, I would expect that staff is going to bring them back. And I think particularly in this case, since the city manager is recommending that the allocation of $250 come out of or be part of one of the existing items, my personal opinion is there'd be nothing wrong procedurally, I'll say, with council approving this item as is, and then out of that $1 million, $2 million, out of these general categories, if staff has specific items they want to bring back that are more than $100,000, they can always bring those back to council for specific authorization. And that may be a way that presents some of that additional information that council is looking for, and then ultimately gets council to the same goal. So, just a suggestion.
Anyone from the public to speak to this item? Are you all coming up? I'm seeing you stirring.
Yeah, we're stirring.
I'll speak. I'll warm it up for you. Kate Baker, Clearwater. I will just say that I agree with Vice Mayor Beckman and also what Mr. Margolis said. I think it is very unusual to say that you're going to allocate $2 million here and $1 million here, and then say that people are going to come and make bids basically for those funds, and those are going to then be brought before council. That is obviously what should happen with the $250,000. I have no idea why one company would be treated differently. If you're only allocating $1 million to nonprofits, I can tell you there's a ton of nonprofits in the city of Clearwater that would like to have access to those funds. And doing those in a city council, I understand that not a lot of the public comes out to city council, but I come every time. So I would like to see that, discussed as individual line items where people could give input on what they feel about those. I think that is always procedurally what would be done. So I think it's very unusual.
Can you fill out a comment card, please?
Javante Scott, resident of North Greenwood. I agree with Mr. Margolis and Vice Mayor Beckman. I think they're both saying the same thing, that the money should come out of one of these things, one of these general statements that the citizens of Clearwater have already voted on. I would think it would be awkward, weird, or to allocate money directly to something, considering everything that's in the ARPA fund document has already been voted on by the public.
Well, just for clarification, none of this has been voted on by citizens. That was not the process. We went out and talked to citizens, 156 citizens out of 120,000 did participate, but there was no actual voting of the populace, just for the record. Anyone else to speak to this item? We've talked about an incubator for a very long time. I've talked to several different organizations, including the Chamber, including St. Pete College, and including the Leeds Group. I think they're all willing to work with this. There is no current funding. The whole concept is to put a program together that will then again be presented to the city council. I do not think it is unreasonable to carve out $250,000, which is just over 1% of the overall monies, for something that actually helps create jobs, rather than, for the most part, a lot of giveaways. So I'll leave it at that.
I'd like to say I'm for incubators. I'm for incubators that focus on creating jobs. I'm not in favor of carve-outs. And so going through the process is just fine. I look forward to supporting it when I know the details, but I don't want to be painted as not supporting incubators or businesses or entrepreneurs or any of that. I'm in favor of a level, transparent playing field. So I make a motion that we approve agenda item 10.1.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Item 11.1.
Mayor, I did have just one other thing if you wanted me to do it under city manager.
Okay.
The city received a FY 2022 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant for $144,000 for the police department's mental health co-responder pilot program. The program pairs a police officer with a mental health professional from the county sheriff's mental health unit to respond to calls with persons in crisis and conduct a follow-up with persons experiencing challenges around mental health in an effort to connect these individuals with the appropriate services. Representative Christ sponsored the request. I was hoping that the police chief could briefly tell you the impact this grant will have for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Dan Slaughter, Chief of Police. We had a little bit of discussion about this during the budget conversation earlier today. The program's been very successful. It's been up and running for almost a year. This allocation was requested when we were going into the initial phase of the pilot. It was to fund the mental health clinicians that participate with our officers. The program's been very successful. We currently have 2 teams that are operating during the day shift on Monday through Friday. Analysis of the data showed that that was the period of time in which we had the most calls associated with mental health, and so far very, very successful. They're responding to somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 calls a month, and having follow-up visits with 20 or so more each month. They're able to work with these clinicians through the sheriff's department, which, as you're probably well aware, the sheriff has a jail with a medical wing, so these people end up having access to the ability to connect medical services in a way that we just can't do as police officers. So it's been very productive, very grateful for the council's support as we initiated. Certainly Congressman Chris, this allocation will certainly help the seed money and accomplish the seed money, and then of course in the next budget we're picking it up because we do believe the program is successful. So very grateful for the support of everyone. It's a good program.
Thank you, Chief. Anything else, Mr. Jennings?
No, sir.
11.1.
11.1, approve the contract for sale of real property by the City of Clearwater, Florida, between the City of Clearwater, Gotham Property Acquisitions, LLC, and the Denunzio Group, LLC, for the former City Hall site located at 112 South Osceola Avenue, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute the same, together with all other instruments required to effect closing. Mayor, this is one of the companion items to the development agreement. I am very pleased to announce that with council's approval, and hopefully with voter approval in November, this document will be our sale document for the old City Hall site, 11.2 being the companion item to that. As the mayor pointed out earlier, most of the terms that the citizens actually are interested in and people actually care about are encapsulated in the development agreement. The development agreement is incorporated by reference into the purchase and sale agreements, into 11.1 and 11.2, and that development agreement will be recorded with the clerk of court. So what I'd like to say just now is in addition to those terms that are in the development agreement, all of which are part of this deal, and all of which are going to be available for voters for their review over the next few months, a couple key terms that are on top of that in the purchase and sale agreement include the following. Number one is the purchase price. The purchase price is actually something that has to go in the purchase agreement rather than the development agreement. The purchase price is $15.4 million for the old City Hall site, as well as $9.3 million for the Harborview site. Those prices reflect the full appraised value at the time that the call for development concepts was issued, and as the mayor pointed out on Monday, that appraisal was predicated on the highest and best use of condos being built. Yet, in this instance, we have agreed with the developers that they will be building apartments instead, which will be available to rent to the general public. And so from the city's perspective, we get the best of both worlds because we get the usage that the council has envisioned, and yet we get a price that's more consistent with condominiums. So the purchase price is part of this. In addition to that, there are restrictions on future conveyance or future transference of the property. Most of those restrictions are encapsulated in the development agreement, and as I said, all of those restrictions are already imported into the purchase and sale agreement. However, in addition to all of those agreements, there is a specific provision in the purchase and sale documents saying that no conveyance can occur to a nonprofit organization. Based on feedback that I've heard from council and that we've heard also from residents, the purpose here is to generate economic activity, to stimulate economic development. So it makes sense that we wouldn't necessarily want this to be conveyed to nonprofit organizations. In addition to that, the purchase and sale agreements provide specific closing dates. The contemplated closing date is by the end of 2024, barring some unusual circumstances. At the time of closing, the developers will have obtained all of the permits that they need in order to go vertical. In other words, they will have all of their site plan approved, they will have their building permits approved. The whole plan is to be shovel-ready, more or less, at the time of closing. Finally, the purchase and sale agreement provides for our obligations as well. Most of those obligations are already encapsulated in the development agreement, but just to provide a couple that are not, we will be providing the survey, which is not a problem. I can speak to Ms. Kivett about that, so we'll be getting a copy of the survey. As Ms. Cole and Ms. Clayton have pointed out, we are demolishing the old City Hall site, providing any environmental remediation if needed. That's something that we wanted to take on because if there is any sort of environmental work, it's better for us to handle that while we still have the property, among other reasons, because we don't want to delay the development of the project. We can do that work now and not cause delays in any of this, so I think that's a win-win for everyone. In addition to that, we will be making streetscape improvements to Osceola Avenue, which I think will be most welcome. And then finally, we will have to negotiate a license agreement only for use of the main library lot. As I've emphasized previously, we are not selling or transferring the main library parking lot. However, we will have to sign a license agreement so that they can use that lot for their ingress and egress for their site plan. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Margolis? Councilmember Bunker.
Not on this, but I did want to ask one question about the ARPA fund vote. Because when I heard your nay, I thought, well, wait a minute. Did we rule out using money for an incubator?
That's correct. There was a motion made to approve the agenda item, and you guys all blithely went along.
Well,
I thought we were going to get, line item stuff along the way, and we would.
I misunderstood. When I understood the agenda, I thought it included Mr. Jennings' recommendation.
No.
So I misunderstood the vote.
Oh, I did too.
Because when he proposed the incubator, I assumed that was the motion. That was going to be part of the motion of 10.1.
It was not a part of the agenda item, so that was a recommendation, but it was not as, and I know it wasn't the motion of the vice mayor. Am I correct?
Correct.
Well, my second wasn't in favor of it as written. And I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, but I do think it's appropriate. I don't know if we can go back and take another vote.
If I misunderstood.
I misunderstood as well.
Did you too?
But we were including it.
I said, I moved to approve agenda item, whatever it was.
10.1.
Yeah, and that was the agenda item. Again, there's nothing on there about a nebulous project that we don't know anything about, but,
So what is our part?
Mr. Margolis.
Good, so just a couple of things on that. So, I mean, the city manager's recommendation, as I have heard it, is that he would like to take $250,000 from one of the line items that council has just approved and allocate $250,000 of that approved line item toward the incubator project. Have I not understood that
Well,
correctly?
prior to the vote that just happened.
But would you not?
So there was a recommendation to allocate specifically $250,000 for the incubator. The motion was to approve it as is.
Sure, I understand. But since council has approved each of the line items in there, including the $1 million from which the city manager intends to take that funding, I don't see anything wrong at this point. If council's interested in the incubator program, and it sounds like there's interest in it, for him to take that portion of the $1 million of nonprofit allocation and bring that forward as the $250,000. I thought he was going to take the $250,000 out of that $1 million. That's part of the line item, right?
Well, I mean, is that something he can bring back to us? Because they're pots of money, aren't they? I mean, these are pots of money that we haven't decided how they're going to be spent.
Absolutely. That's, to be honest, I thought that was what the city manager's proposal was.
That's why I thought I was voting on that, because that included that suggestion, but when I look at
Okay,
these topics.
hold on, time out.
Yeah.
Let's finish 11 point, we're at
Okay.
11.2. This is highly, talk about bizarro. Anyone from the public to speak to 11.1? Anything else, Mr. Margolis?
No, sir.
Do I have a motion to approve item 11.1?
Move to approve item 11.1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 11.2.
Approve the contract for sale of real property by the City of Clearwater, Florida, between the City of Clearwater, Gotham Property Acquisitions LLC, and the Zununzia Group LLC for the former Harborview site, which was located at 320 Cleveland Street and is being readdressed as 50 North Osceola Avenue, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute the same together with all other instruments required to effect closing. Mayor, this is the companion item to 11.1.
Anyone from the public to speak to 11.2?
Move to approve agenda item 11.2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Congratulations to all of us. Now we've just got a lot of work to do. So between now and November. Any further discussion on 10.1?
Yes.
Councilmember Albritton.
Okay, so if these are general pots of money and you want to take it out of a specific pot of money, why can't you just bring that back to us? Because we're going to have to approve how everything's spent anyway. So just bring it back, tell us how it's going to be spent, be a little more descriptive, and then we can put it to a vote.
Well, we certainly can do that. But
Why wouldn't we? Why,
Well-
what's the,
Vice Mayor, I think it's been said that a lot of those categories are not specific.
Right.
This was a specific request that actually will do a lot for the economic development for the city. And not every program that we receive, not everything is going to be spelled out in great detail. I just think that this was an opportunity to move something forward sooner rather than later. If the council wants me to make that recommendation in the body of the approved options, then we can take a look at that as well.
I'd just like to see details. I'd like to know the name of it. If we want to say we would value a quarter of the pot to go to an incubator, some incubator out there, and open it up for people to apply. That's different than the incubator, which I don't even know which one the is. But even that, it does not sit right with me. Again, the public has no knowledge of it, other than a few words up here.
Any of these pots.
They
But
have
they
no
do
knowledge
have-
of any of these pots.
Yes,
That's just-
they do have
No,
knowledge of the pots.
You have no idea what the CRA money is going to go towards.
They know the name of the pots. We've had the name of the pots
You
and all
don't
of
know
them.
where the affordable housing money is going to go. It's just been allocated to a category.
Right, and now we need to have valuable, thought-out programs brought to us so that we can vet them and approve them, right?
And that's exactly what would happen with the incubator too, but people are not going to put forth a lot of effort when there's no funding available to do it. So,
Well,
that's just a fact
they've certainly got the
in the
message that
business
we're,
world. So, we're not gonna replow this today. We can bring it back in the future. Anything else, Mr. Margolis? All right, closing comments. I'll start from my left.
So I wanted to just take a few minutes to praise a lot of people out there and organizations that are doing great things for this city. First and foremost, the staff of Parks and Rec and other staff that are taking care of the children in the summer programs, especially post-COVID, where socialization and normalization is so important. I want to really give props to all those people who did great children's summer programs. I've seen the results, so I'm very happy about that. Also want to thank the CMA and the Sea Turtle crew, I guess, who were very welcoming and had me do a ride-along, and I saw firsthand the important work that they're doing. It was a wonderful time, and I appreciate their work. I also went to see the Moffett Center Mole Patrol at the beach. They were doing great work as well. They were just taking people from the beach and looking over their skin and mouths and doing screening for cancer. And if they found anything suspicious, they actually really helped those patients get the follow-up and information that they need. So, and I met their CEO, Dr. Hugh, who we entered a great, robust conversation, and he's asking us to tour his facilities and have further discussions. So great work there. Last but not least, I am inviting everyone to August 27th. There's going to be a DFAC Wearable Arts 16th Annual Fashion Show, where we are shining the light on the children's program in Greenwood Rec Center. They have helped me do a collection. We're also highlighting the Young Kings Hierarchy team. So this is going to be a performance/fashion show. August 27th at the DFAC, please show your support. Let's shine some light on these wonderfully talented children. And that's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Bunker.
I wanted to respond to some comments made during the Citizens to be Heard, which I don't normally do, but Mr. Huluba makes a lot of appearances here. I've always gotten along great with Mr. Huluba, probably because before I was on the council, we would be sitting side by side and he'd come up and chew out the council for his purposes, and then I'd come up and talk about Scientology and probably get everybody just as mad listening to me. So we've shared that unique bond. But I thought his frontal attack on Vice Mayor Beckman today was uncalled for. She is passionate because she believes these things to her core. She's fighting for the people of Clearwater. This is not an ego thing. And I admire her greatly, and so many citizens out throughout the city do as well. You know, and I don't always back her, but I try whenever possible to, because I think she's right most of the time. So I wanted to say that, but I also, you know, I mentioned Scientology, so I know what it's like sitting up here with you know, everybody else voting against me. You know, we heard about the Urban Land Institute study from 2014 saying we've all got to get together. Mr. Johnson brought that up. And their key point, because I've watched that and I made a video about that presentation, their key point is we need to work side by side with Scientology. And I'm of the position that David Miscavige can't be trusted, but Mr. Jennings, who I have great admiration for, and I've said I'm going to give him my full support, well, I'm still skeptical that Miscavige is going to come through. But if he does, I will say, good for you. I heard rumblings that he and Tom Cruise are trying to get the movie theater downtown. If he does, that's a really great first step to show that they want to be part of this and not just stand in our way. So I'm hopeful that can happen, but I'm skeptical. And I'm going to remain skeptical until I see more progress. And that's all I'll say.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you for those kind words, Councilmember Bunker. I appreciate it. I'm not perfect, and I can take Mr. Haluba. I'm a mom and a former high school English teacher grading papers, so I'm used to not pleasing everybody. But I do work hard, and I do try my best, and I'm not perfect. Super happy that we've got those ARPA funds in buckets, and so they're ready to go, rather than just sitting in the bank and waiting for allocation. So it'll be exciting to see how they are used to respond to things that COVID exposed here in our community and in society and make things better. I'm also super excited about the referendum and the bluff development. There was a lot of intense work in a small amount of time, and I feel very comfortable and excited about it. If you have questions about that referendum, the language and the details, first of all, you've got access to all those documents that are public record, that are attached to the agenda. But I would say, don't hesitate to reach out to leaders in the city to get accurate answers, because it's important that you have the correct information as you go and make your decision about voting this fall. It's real important, but you need to have clarity. I think it's a really good project, and I hope you'll get informed and be a voter in the fall.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Well, I don't see Joelle back there. I gave her my presentation, but I guess I'll just read it anyway.
It's right there. It's on the It's on the
Oh, is it already on there? PSTA Board at its last meeting approved the UPass, which is the Universal Pass program. Pinellas County Schools is partnering with PSTA to provide free rides to students and staff. All Pinellas County students and staff ride free all the time. Just display your school ID or employee ID for the driver. Now, if you don't have a school ID, go to the office, you can get one, and you can ride PSTA buses anytime. I think this is going to be a great program. It extends sustainability and provides transportation options to reduce traffic congestion, and it gives students an option for after-school activities and all that to get home. So that starts this school year. So this little thing here shows you where you can get it. Just go to your school and they can give you some kind of a card that you can show the driver and ride for free. The only other thing I wanted to say is there's a countdown. It's 12 days for our federal raise grant results. That's on the Clearwater Intermodal Center. We're all crossing our fingers and hoping we will get some money this year. This will be our 13th, Pinellas County's 13th try on a raise grant. And when I went to Washington, we kind of pushed that point with all our senators and transportation people that, we keep trying. We'd like some money here in Pinellas County, so we'll see. 12 more days and we should know. Thanks.
Very good. Want to thank everybody who came out for the Greenwood CRA, the final of 4 meetings. And our consultant want to thank staff for all the work that they put into that. Also want to recommend to all of you, if you want to go see our high school students that were at Ruth Eckerd Hall this summer, preparing for a play called Into the Woods. I got to see it last night at the Murray Theater. It's dynamite. Hard to believe that they could come together in 3.5 weeks and pull off a presentation of the magnitude that they have. And then we're really excited to open up the Duke Energy Trail tomorrow morning up in Countryside. So that's going to be a great asset to continue to expand our trail system throughout Clearwater and all of Pinellas County. If you get a chance, either come out for the ribbon cutting or just test it out this weekend. So with that, we are adjourned. God bless.